Tonight's class will be focusing on two different bibliographic management tools. The first one that we'll be looking at tonight is a subscription product that our library provides access to for students and employees here at Regent. It's called Refworks. And Refworks is basically, it's an online tool designed to help students manage and organize and format and cite their research sources. I know several of you are probably familiar with the covers of those manuals in your fields of study. The APA style guide, for example, MLA, Turabian, I know is widely used by government and divinity, for example. Well, the power of Refworks is that it will work with all of those different format styles and still others, even not listed here on this particular slide. Refworks will take citations that you import from various databases and format them, again, in whatever style you happen to choose, alphabetical order, in pretty near perfect formatting syntax. And I put that caveat of near perfect because obviously no automated system is perfect. If you put garbage in, you'll get garbage out. But Refworks can help make that process of formatting your sources a whole lot easier, particularly when you get to a dissertation or theses stage. So again, why use Refworks? Refworks gives you the advantage of being able to store and organize your citations in one place, in an online space, a personal account that you set up. You can, again, save time and sanity when you're trying to format and create that bibliography, especially the night that your paper is due. And then Refworks is also has the advantage of being a web-based system. And by that I mean it's accessible to anybody with an internet-connected computer. So it doesn't matter if you're a Mac user, PC, or even Linux. It doesn't matter if you use Internet Explorer, Firefox, or any other browser. You can access and utilize Refworks with just about any platform out there. Now, accessing Refworks can be a little bit tricky. This is a point, I'll mention that there's a little bit of a learning curve. We often get questions at the reference desk about how to get into Refworks, and I'll do a demonstration of this in just a minute. But basically, to summarize, there are two ways to access Refworks. One will be to log in using the link from the library website, and that particular link is proxied. In other words, it will treat you as if you were right here on campus and recognize you as a Regent authorized user. That's option one. Option two is to use what's called a group code, and that group code would allow you to log into Refworks from anywhere, regardless of whether you hit our magic proxy link or just go straight in typing in refworks.com. That group code is the other way by which you can access Refworks. That group code, I'll go ahead and give that out to you here now. In fact, I'll put it up here on the screen as well. RW Regent U is that group code if you want to jot that down. We try to keep that somewhat under wraps so not just anybody can access Refworks, but just obviously authorized students and employees here at Regent. But capital R, capital W, capital R, and then as in Regent, and then capital U at the end is that group code. And I'll do a demonstration here in just a moment with how that works, how you can use that group code to get logged in. As I mentioned, there are many ways in which you can actually import citations into Refworks. Again, I'll do a demonstration of this in just a moment, but I want to point out two ways in which you can import citations. One is to type in citations manually, but then also here you've got a list of all of the different databases which are compatible with Refworks. Databases such as Academic Search Complete, one of our EBSCO databases, EBSCO host databases on this list. OCLC, which would cover databases such as ATLA for our divinity students, for example, and many others. Refworks is very widely used by a number of universities and colleges and even a few public libraries. And so for that reason, they're compatible with all of these different database systems. That gives them another significant advantage right here. Now at this point, I'm going to switch gears a little bit out of my PowerPoint slide and get into a web browser here using Firefox. You're welcome to follow along if you like on Internet Explorer, or if you just want to watch and kind of take notes as we go here. We'll be diverting from the slides here, but I want to give a demo of a couple of these things I've talked about already. We're looking here at the library homepage, and right here at the very top, on the top left corner, you have this section for research tools. This is where probably many of you have spent a lot of time clicking over the past few months, accessing things like the library catalog, our article databases, the full-text journal finder, for example. I want to point out here there's a link to Refworks here on this section under Research Tools. And I'm going to click there because what that will do is pull up another web page. This just gives a little more information about Refworks. But as I mentioned a minute or two ago, one of the ways you can log into Refworks is using that proxied link. Well, this connect button up here offers you just that particular option, to use that proxied link. When I click on connect, don't be surprised, on campus or off campus, you'll now see a prompt for entering your Regent ID and password. Go ahead and check that box if it isn't already pre-checked here, the first one, and enter your ID and password. I'll pause just a moment if you're following along here. Again, what this process is all about is just basically authenticating you as being part of the Regent family in a virtual sense here as a student or employee. So I'll click on Submit. Oh, and I'm getting a little message here on a security certificate. You probably won't see that. If you see a message in Internet Explorer, if it's the first time accessing Refworks on your particular computer, you'll probably see something similar asking if you want to continue or cancel. Just click Continue and you'll go ahead and get right in there. Firefox has a few extra hoops there, but I should get right in here in a second. There we go. And here we are at the Refworks login page. And if you notice there at in the gray box, kind of in the top center there, it says Refworks user login for Regent University. That's a great sign. I mean, what that is indicating is that Refworks basically understands that you are coming in through Regent, whether you're on campus or off campus. If you're coming through our proxy link, Refworks, as far as they're concerned, they know you're a Regent user. Now, if you are a first-time user of Refworks, let me pause for a second and point out a very critical thing. You are not automatically entered in Refworks. You will first need to create a personal account where you can store your citations and log in and log out. And so there is a link here, again, right under that box of Regent University, where it says if you're new to Refworks, you need to sign up for an individual account. I'm actually going to open that here and just show you what that looks like. It's not a terribly long form. It'll just ask for a name. It could even be a bogus name. It really doesn't matter. You choose your login name and password. I happen to use the same username and password that I use for Regent email and Blackboard. It's just one less password I need to remember. But if there's another username or password you want to use, go right ahead. Feel free to use that instead. There's also an email address. You won't get spam, trust me on that, but they use that email address form just for, in case you forget your password, you'll get some verification then. Another way by which you can reset your password and your account. And of course, there's a little graphic down here at the bottom here just to confirm that this isn't some automated kind of spam setup here, that it's a real human being who's creating this account. So it just takes a minute to fill out this form to create a Refworks account. Once you've done that, you can then use that Refworks username and password in the login screen, and you're off and running, able to log into Refworks. So again, I don't want to belabor this point, but when you get to this screen, do not assume your Regent ID and password are just going to work on here, because they won't. You will need to first create a Refworks account, individual, specific to you. You can choose your username and password in that sign-up form. And once you do that, then you're off and running. Now, I'll take just a moment, too, to point out one other thing on this login form, and that is the group code. If you remember a couple minutes ago, I mentioned that if you are off campus and you don't want to necessarily come through our library website to get to Refworks, that's fine. There is a method by which you can log in using that group code. If you go to refworks.com and click on Login, and then you'll see this link at the bottom of the login form. Click there. I'll just show you what this looks like here. This is where you'll get that, that prompt here to enter that, group code for Regent, that RW Regent U would go in here. Once you plug that in, hit go to login. Again, Refworks will then recognize, okay, I'm dealing with a Regent student here, someone who's an authorized user because Regent University Library is paid for a subscription. So. Because I came through a proxy link, I'm already good to go here. Again, Regent University, Refworks knows who I am. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. I've got my login name and password saved. So we'll go ahead and get logged in here. And if you've already set up an account, you want to follow along, please feel free. And we're getting there a little bit slowly, but here we go. All right, we're logged into Refworks. I've got my name in the top right corner. And I'll take a moment here to just kind of describe some of the links you're seeing in this menu bar along the top row here. Just kind of work from left to right here to briefly pull those up and describe what you're looking at. There's a references drop-down menu here where you can add new references manually. You can type in your citations. I'll tell you that's kind of the hard way to do it, but that is an option for you. You can also import references from various other databases. Maybe if you're an EndNote user, there are other software tools out there like EndNote or ProCite. If you happen to be a user of one of those tools and you want to import all of those references into Refworks, you have the ability to do that as well. You also have the option to export all of your references to those other types of bibliographic management software programs. I'll put in a plug here for Refworks. If this is totally free for you as students here at Regent University to access this, but there are other tools out there. EndNote, just as a FYI, is a software program you can install on your computer to do much the same thing, but it will set you back, I think, at least $100 to buy that. So just keep that in mind. There are other tools out there, but they will cost some money. You've got options also within Refworks to search across all of your citations by author or by other types of keywords. So if you're trying to think of, there was an article that I know I put into Refworks and it had the word alternative fuel, the phrase alternative fuel somewhere in the title of the article. You can search across all of your references very easily within Refworks. You can also change the view and even organize your references within folders. Under View, there's this option for Folder. You can see in red here on the screen, I've got about 5 folders that I've set up over time for various demonstrations and personal use where I can organize all of those citations as well. And again, Folders is also available here. It's kind of a little bit of a redundancy to view all those folders or create a new folder. There's a bibliography button, which I'll demonstrate in full detail in a few minutes. And then finally, also Tools. Let's see if I can get that Tools menu to disappear in a second here. And this Tools drop-down is particularly helpful because there are particular components that are enhancements or add-ons to Refworks that can really help facilitate your use of this program. Write and Cite is a plugin that you can install on your computer, and it will take data out of Refworks and drop it right into your Word documents. So I'll demonstrate this in a few minutes, how Write and Cite works. There's also a tool called RefGrabIt, which is a little bookmark. I'll demonstrate that too in a minute. And also some other options here under Tools. And of course, Help is also in this menu bar. And there are some really great tutorials here available through Refworks, and you don't even need to log in. I'll give you that URL here at the end of the slideshow, but there are some flash tutorials that you can view if you want to review some of the concepts or topics that we hit on tonight here. There are some great tutorials available online that will step you through specific steps of using Refworks more fully. So with that, I've kind of given a little bit of a guided tour here of the Refworks menu bar, and I'm going to just demonstrate here back on references that option of adding a new reference and how that might work. If you had a citation given to you maybe by a friend or faculty member for a particular article that you wanted to maybe use in your thesis or research paper, you can go to References and add new reference to get to this form and manually add references. And as I said, there's a little bit of manual data entry here. It can be a bit time consuming, but this is certainly an option. One thing that helps when you're filling out a new reference manually is to choose the format that you expect you'll be working with in your final product, whether it's Chicago, Turabian, or APA. And what will happen is I'll switch this to APA. You'll see the fields on my form change a little bit because, again, with each style, there may be a little bit different amount of information that's required to satisfy APA versus Turabian or others here. So I've selected APA. I could specify a folder I want to save this particular citation into. Is this a journal article or is it a book? Source type. I can fill in authors, title, and you can see there's quite a few fields in here that the more data you put in, the better the final product will be when you go to generate a bibliography out of Refworks. But again, it can be a little bit time consuming taking this particular approach. And there are a lot of fields. You certainly don't have to fill them all out. The ones that are most recommended in APA format anyway here would be the ones with a green check mark there. So that's one approach. I won't actually type in a complete reference here for the sake of time, but that's one approach. The other approach that I'm going to demonstrate here, which I think will be a lot easier and more useful to most folks, I'm going to open another browser tab here, and that will be to there we go. That will be to actually import references directly from a database. If you remember that screen capture I had, the whole list of databases that Refworks is compatible with, that's where there's some real strength and speed in using this approach instead, being able to just extract that data right out of our databases. I have a saved search here on alternative fuel vehicles just for the sake of demonstration here. I've got 175 articles coming up in Academic Search Complete. This is a very general, a very powerful full-text database in the EBSCO suite. And if you scroll down here, you'll see several article citations here. And one of the things I can do is I can either add these articles individually or as a group here. Let's say find Article 3 here, maybe from the Wall Street Journal. Article title, Taking Natural Gas for a Spin, as a potentially helpful article. Here's one on a hydrogen car. I'll just add that to my folder. What I'm doing is I'm adding these articles into a folder within the EBSCO database. Not in Refworks, but within the database. Okay, I've got 3 articles flagged here. And if I scroll back up to the top, you'll see over here on the right side, now I've got 3 articles saved here in the database. I go to folder view here in EBSCO, and it'll show me those 3 citations again. And if I want to export all of these into Refworks in one fell swoop, I can do that very easily here. Check this box here, Firefox shows this little error, but I can just ignore that. Click OK. I've got all three of those citations ready to export here. And up here at the top of my screen, I'll click on the export icon. I'm still in the EBSCO database here, and it's telling me I've got 3 citations ready to be exported. What format do I want to use? Here we go. I want to do a direct export into Refworks. That last option here. Click on Save. And another browser window or tab will then open up, and you'll see a little bit of a confirmation screen here. Importing references, please wait. And usually you'll see a couple of asterisks show up for each reference you're importing. And here we go, import complete, 3 references imported. I can now view my last imported folder in Refworks. And what I should see now, instead of having to type in all that stuff, I now have 3 articles here. The title, authors, where authors are cited here, and complete source information. And I can view this in even further detail. I'll just pick on this first one here. There's a link for view on the right side of that citation. And again, look at all these fields that are already in here and formatted, including volume and issue number, page numbers, even descriptors out of EBSCO, and an abstract, which is handy to come back to. Again, a little bit of a summary, what that article's about. All of that data is very easily exported over into Refworks. And then there's a permanent link going back to that article, which again will be handy for you. Your instructors will love it too, because then they can follow up on those sources that you've used in your paper and look at the complete article if they have any questions or just want to read more about that from that particular source. So again, really the best way to use Refworks is to use that export function out of the databases and into Refworks. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of typing, a lot of carpal tunnel along the way. I'll go back here to my reference list. Now you notice there's a little folder here on the right side called Last Imported. Every time you're pulling data into Refworks, what Refworks will do is just take that batch of citations and put it in the Last Imported folder. So again, if I go back to EBSCO and choose 4 different articles, import it, those will get slung into that Last Imported folder, and these 3 will then disappear from the last imported. They won't be gone from Refworks. I want to make that clear, but that could be a point of confusion here. Let me switch to my folder view and try to demonstrate what that looks like here. I'll go to Folders, View, and Last Imported. And again, you're not going to see anything different here, just those 3 articles I just pulled in. But if I were to go again back to EBSCO or ATLA or a different database and do that export into Refworks, these 3 would no longer be in the Last Imported section. Instead, where they'll show up, if I haven't already put them in another folder, they'll show up in this wide open Wild West area in Refworks called References Not in a Folder. There's nothing wrong with using that, except if you're tracking your sources for different papers and they're all jumbled up, it's going to get confusing very quickly. So there's a very good reason to use those folders, per assignment or per class to try to track all of your sources. So here are some references I don't have in a folder yet, and quite a few. So I've got some tidying up here that I would need to do if I were to really use this in a serious way. But I wanted to point that out, that references not in a folder is where things will get bumped to if I don't personally take the time to move things into a particular folder. I'll go back to that Last Imported for just a moment here and demonstrate one more concept here. In fact, I'm just going to take all 3 of these articles. I'm using the checkbox here on the left side for those 3 articles that I just pulled in on alternative fuel vehicles. And I'm going to move those. I'll pick on a folder here. I'll just say Demo 2 near the top. There's a drop-down menu where I could choose that folder. I get a confirmation screen. Are you sure you want to put those 3 references in Demo 2? I'm good with that. So, okay. And there we go. And it doesn't look like maybe things have changed a lot, but those 3 references, if you notice on the right-hand side of the screen, you've got last imported and then semicolon Demo 2. That's telling you I've got these references now in, at the moment, in 2 folders, one of which is Demo 2, the other is last imported, and that's kind of a temporary thing. Okay. How are we doing so far? Have I lost anybody seriously yet? We're doing okay? I could, doing all right? Great, okay. I'd be happy to answer some questions. Oh, no, you've got a question? Yeah. Oh, okay, all right. Well, we'll try, save your questions. Okay, we'll definitely come back at the end of the class, and I'd be happy to go over anything in detail. Again, this is a little bit of a tricky concept here with the folders. I've got a folder here that I had saved these articles into. If I'd wanted to put all these 3 citations, they're still checked here on the screen. If I wanted to put them in a brand new folder, I can set up a new folder up here, whoops, in my folder menu very quickly and do that as a point of housekeeping. So we'll just call this one Demo 3. Now I've got another place where I can save those references if I want to. Go back to my reference list. Still got my 3 articles. They're still checked here. And if I want to add those into Demo 3 as another folder, I can certainly do that. Now I basically have these 3 articles in 2 different folders. And that's fine. There's no problem with doing that. If you've got maybe 2 different assignments that are using some of the same sources, there's a real advantage in being able to mix things up like that. Okay. Well, I want to move on and point out a couple of other options within Refworks for importing data here. I'm going to go right back here to one of my tabs here and do another saved search here that I've got from the catalog. Make sure this is going to open in the right location. Here we go. Good. I've got a saved catalog search on Charlie Chaplin here as a keyword search, and we've got 91 entries available here at the library. These would be various books or videos in our collection where Charlie Chaplin's name is featured in the title or in the subject headings. I'll just pick on number 2 here as an example of this particular search. Making music with Charlie Chaplin. One of the ways, another way in which you can actually import data into Refworks is to use a bookmark called Refgrabbit. And I have that bookmark already saved here in my browser at the top. I'm going to demonstrate how this works, what it looks like, and then I'll show you again in Refworks where you can find that particular bookmark. So here I am. I'm in our library catalog. I'm looking at a single book record, not a whole list, but just one record for this book, and I'd like to add this to my bibliography. So I'm going to click on my bookmark up here for Refgrabbit. And Refworks will try to pull in some information, and it does a halfway decent job. But notice here, there is a top here, a more complete version of this reference may be available. Show me this reference. And this is important for books because you'll get far better information if you actually follow that second link here. I'm going to click that Show Me This Reference, and now you'll see a much better entry that you could actually import into Refworks. If you look at the data here on the screen, we've got, again, everything from the author, title, subject headings, also called descriptors, publisher information, even the ISBN number. All of that information can be now imported into Refworks. So it's an easy way to take books, in particular books, out of our library catalog or certain other catalogs and pull those into Refworks. This is usually the easiest way to work with books. And so to import that, I've got a button up here in the top left corner. Are you sure you want to import this reference? I'll click OK. And just like that, there's not a lot of confirmation on this screen, but if I go back to my Refworks tab here that I've got open, aha, import complete, one reference imported. I'll look at my last imported folder. I've got just one item now, not the 3 articles that I have been working with, but just this one book. This is the last item I've imported here from our catalog, this book on Charlie Chaplin. And now I can do whatever I need to. I can put this into a folder of my choosing or add additional information to it, do any number of things in Refworks. So RefGrabIt is a helpful tool mostly for using or for importing books from library catalogs. I've personally found that's the easiest way to grab book information and bring it into Refworks. How do you get your hands on RefGrabIt if you want to add that to your own browser? Again, log into Refworks, hover over Tools in the menu bar, and then just drop down here to RefGrabIt. And what you'll see here is a page with a little bit of instructions about how you can add that bookmark to either Internet Explorer or Firefox. I'm not sure if Safari is supported. It looks like for Mac users it's only Firefox or Netscape, not Safari. And basically the instructions here on this page will just tell you to right-click on a link, choose bookmark this link, and then you can specify where in your list of bookmarks on your browser you want to save that RefGrabIt tool to. You know, for me, for this case, I saved it to my bookmark toolbar, so it's always accessible right there at the very top of the screen. I don't have to go hunting under various folders. It's just right there. It's one click, and I'm off and running there. So the instructions for adding that are right here on this screen for RefGrabIt, and I'll just kind of clean up some things here. And again, RefGrabIt, one of those powerful tools that's available to you within Refworks under the Tools menu right there. Okay, well, I'm going to keep moving along here because I want to cut to probably the most valuable part of Refworks, and that is actually generating a bibliography here using sources here. Here in the Refworks menu, it's not a drop-down menu, but I've got a link here at the top for bibliography, and it's probably potentially the most powerful link within Refworks here in that menu bar up here at the top. This is the point where if you have a collection of citations in a folder, excuse me, within Refworks that you want to dump into a list of references of works cited at the end of your paper, this is the very point where you would start from. And I'm going to just do a demo here of exactly how you would go through these steps here. For the purposes of demonstration here, I'm going to choose my output style as APA in this case. And I just want to, in this exercise, create a list of my references. I'm not going to format a paper. I just want to create a list of those references that I can work with. So I'm going to keep this radio button highlighted here to format a bibliography from a list of references. And I have an option here for what type of file I want to create. I can set this up in a web page, HTML. Most folks that we're working with are usually working with Microsoft Word 2000 or later, so I'll select that option since that's usually the most common. And now here's the point where you can specify which references you want to include. I could dump all 46 references in my Refworks account into my bibliography, or I could specify references from a specific folder. And in this case, I'll just pick on Demo 2 here as a place I know I've got something less than 46 references saved here. So I've selected the folder that I want to format. I know that this is going to come in Word, Microsoft Word. Now I'm ready to create my bibliography. Oh no! Problem saving created documents. Let's see if I get any more information. Or I'll try a different folder here. That's the first time I have seen that message in all the times I've used Refworks. Let me pick on a different folder here, maybe just demo. Let's see here. So far, so good. That's encouraging. Okay, and here we go. Refworks has been cooking. You see a little screen pop up here. Bibliography created with 9 references. I'm even prompted here. I can go ahead and open this in Word, or I can save it to my desktop. If for whatever reason this particular pop-up did not launch here, you even have the option to email it to yourself as an attachment. So that's a handy feature there as well. But I'll go ahead and open this. I'm hopeful that we're in good shape here, and I'll try to increase that font size a little bit. And here we go. I think I'd selected MLA format, and I've got all those references in that demo, or APA format, I'm sorry. And I'd selected 9 references. They're in alphabetical order here. I've got authors and publication date of the article title, journal title in italics here, publication information, so on and so forth, on down the line. And there's your bibliography that you can now copy and paste into another Word document, the research paper you've been working on. That's the easiest way to generate a bibliography. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the class, garbage in, garbage out. I strongly recommend, before you just copy this and dump it into your paper, that you take a few minutes to proof what you're getting here to make sure it's correctly formatted. For example, I think APA is pretty sensitive about capitalization, for example, on article titles. I think we're doing okay on that first one. Second one looks good. I haven't seen any glitches yet. Maybe someone else has. Here's an interesting one. I think this is an article without an author. And so I might have to double check my APA style guide to see if we've got that correctly formatted for an article without authors cited. In this case, just a title. So I'd have to double check that. I don't have that in memory. But otherwise, most of this really actually looks pretty good. And that's, so that's helpful. So that's the easiest way to create a list of your references. I'll just close that out here. Go back to bibliography. Again, click on bibliography, choose your output style, format a bibliography from a list of references and choose the format. Usually it's Word. And then choose the folder where you've organized your references. And you're off and running there. Now, I do actually have some other slides in my PowerPoint on how to use Refworks with a tool called Write in Sight. Open up Word here for a moment. As I mentioned earlier in the class, Write in Sight is a plugin that you can install on your own installation of Microsoft Word. This will work with Word 2007, 03, I think back to Word 2000. And any of those particular versions. And Write in Sight will allow you then, if you are working with a paper, I'll just click on this kind of briefly here for a demo. What Write in Sight will allow you to do is insert citations either in parenthetical format or as footnotes or endnotes, and embed those citations directly within your paper. I'll just kind of drop my cursor here and say I'm going to cite that particular sentence here. Go back to my Write in Sight tab, and I'm just going to pick one at random here, even though it's the wrong one. I'm going to cite this particular source. Click Cite. And if you look at that now in my Word document here, I've got kind of a double bracket note embedded in my Word document. And when I go to format this document in Refworks at the end of having completed my paper, Refworks will take that note and it will know to embed this particular citation, whatever that article is, in multi-jurisdictional grand jury, which has nothing to do with the World Wide Web. But I hope you'll see kind of the concept here. I regret I don't have enough time at the moment to show that in more detail, but there are tutorials embedded in the Refworks website that can step you through that process. And I'm also happy to answer questions about that after the class tonight, and also certainly by email or at the reference desk. So this is a little more advanced use of Refworks. It's something, some people don't use this. Personally, I'm still kind of old school. I use APA for my papers in the School of Education, and I still like to just put in little parenthetical references myself instead of fooling with write and cite. But other people, if you're working on a really long thesis, this may be a much better way to go for using this particular feature to track your endnotes, footnotes, what have you. Okay. I'd be happy to answer questions about that in more depth at the end of our class here. I'm going to, and again, that's also explained in a little more detail in the PowerPoint slides. Those of you who have printed those off, you'll see some slides that kind of walk you through that process of using write and cite to embed citations within a Word document. So you'll have that to take home with you as well. I'm going to just zip back here to our PowerPoint here. And these are some of those slides that are in your handout packet demonstrating write and cite. As I mentioned at the beginning of the class, there is a wonderful set of tutorials available on Refworks at refworks.com/tutorial. Probably at least a dozen flash tutorials there on different topics, very specific. Each one varies in time from maybe 60 seconds to maybe, I want to say 3 or 4 minutes in length. So they're not terribly long, very specific. There's even support available through Refworks if you want to send them an email or give them a call. Of course, feel free to call us at the reference desk here at the library. We'll probably be a little bit faster than their turnaround time there. So with that, that's the demonstration on Refworks. I'm going to press on here and just talk about one other citation tool that we had advertised in our class this evening, and that being Zotero. And Zotero is just an alternative tool to Refworks. I won't spend as much time on this this evening so that we're wrapping up here near the top of the hour. And I've got, I think we're changing tapes back there, so I'll pause for a moment. Yes, ma'am. Yes, that website is Mind Sources. Let me pull that up here. That's the URL to pull up all the slides from both the Refworks side and this Zotero presentation that we're about to enter. It's about, I think, 6 pages long, 24 slides total. But it's got some screen captures on there that will, again, kind of underscore and go in maybe a little more detail than I was able to on how to use some of these features, particularly that write and cite tool that I had to really compress there. So yeah, do check that out. And that'll be up long after this class is over. That's not going anywhere. Okay. Well, just to talk about Zotero and compare that for a few minutes here to Refworks, and I'll do a demonstration here in just a few moments too. Zotero is another way of organizing your bibliographic references and creating bibliographies. How is it different from Refworks? Well, first of all, Zotero is a software plugin that only works with Mozilla Firefox. Firefox is a free web browser that's available for download. It's an alternative to Internet Explorer, but Zotero will not work in Internet Explorer. So you have to first be a Firefox user to take advantage of Zotero. Because Zotero works with Firefox, it is compatible on, again, any operating system platform, whether you're a Mac user or a Linux user. As long as you've got Firefox running, you can use Zotero. As I mentioned, it's not for use with other browsers like Internet Explorer or Opera or Safari. And while Zotero is not web-based in the way that Refworks is, that it's not a web page that you log into, there are ways that you can make Zotero portable so you can take your references with you, whether you're working here in the computer lab, you're working at home, or at the office, somewhere else. There are ways to make Zotero portable that I'll explain in just a moment. How can you get your hands on Zotero? First, you need to download and install Firefox if you haven't already. If you just Google Firefox, you should get the URL for how to download Firefox. Once you've got Firefox installed, open that browser, go to zotero.org, Zotero.org, and you can download the latest version. I think the latest version is 1.0.7. And click on that link, and you'll be prompted, most likely, with a little pop-up window in Firefox here. I've got a screen capture on the slides here. Do you want to allow Zotero to basically install this software on your Firefox? And just say allow or OK. No problems. It's completely on the up and up. Just as a little background, Zotero is actually developed by some software developers up at George Mason University up near Washington, D.C. It was funded by a federal grant for library that supports library research. And so there's some real credentials and strong backing behind this particular software program. It's not, Joe Schmo in his basement hacking out some program, although there are certainly perfectly qualified programmers out there who do that in the open source world. But this has the backing of George Mason University and several other reputable and well-funded academic and nonprofit groups behind it. It's totally free. There's no cost to download and install Zotero. One of the advantages of using Zotero that I'll try to demonstrate here in our last few minutes is the ability to do what I call scrape citations from databases. In other words, you're able to import references from a lot of databases, just like EBSCO, like I've already demonstrated, and our library catalog and other sources. And in a way, I think it's actually a little bit easier than Refworks. I'm a little biased maybe, but I find it a little more user-friendly to do just that. And I'll demonstrate that in a couple minutes. Zotero also has the ability to, when you're scraping web pages, it will actually automatically take a screen capture of that web page. So even if it's, let's say it's a screenshot of CNN.com from 11:30 Tuesday night, following the election results, Zotero will take a screen capture of how CNN's homepage looked at that moment, and you'll always have that to refer back to, even if they update their site as they always do. You'll have that screen capture to fall back on. That just happens automatically. It's a nice feature within Zotero. With that, I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and switch back to my web browser. I'm going to log out and close a couple windows here. Get out of Refworks. And I'll go back here to my my canned search I had from EBSCO databases on alternative fuel vehicles. And I'll also show you where Zotero lives once you have it installed on your Firefox browser. If you look, it's kind of subtle. Here at the bottom here in my status bar on Firefox, I've got a little icon for Zotero. And if I click on that icon, I get a little window frame that pops up here. And this is where you're able to add, store, and organize your citation references. You don't have to log into anything. It's just right there. It's always accessible to you as long as you're running in Firefox here. And I've been using Zotero now for probably about 2 years for both my classes in education and for other professional reasons. And I found it very robust and reliable, very easy to use. As you can see, I've got other folders here that you can organize your citations in. If I want to add a folder, there's an icon here. They call it collection, new collection. I'll just give this a name of demo. And now I've got another folder in which I can drop articles here. So I'll just continue here with my demonstration here. Again, I'm looking at a list of articles in EBSCO on alternative fuel vehicles. And let me demonstrate how the scraping function works. This is, I think, kind of slick here with Zotero. If you notice up here in the address bar, there's a little folder icon that appears when I'm looking at a list of results in this database. And if I click on that icon, I could, from this screen, I could dump all of these articles into Zotero for use in my paper. Or I can selectively click boxes here and choose just certain articles that would be relevant to my research. I'll just pick on 3 again. I click on OK, and there's a little box in the bottom right corner here. It's kind of, here we go, saving items, and it's pulling in those articles. I think I only got one here. Let's see if it bombed out on, no, or is it still thinking? There we go. And I'm hoping at least one more. I think I checked 3. Yep. And I'm running from my flash drive, so that may be why it's a little bit slower here than if I were running off a hard drive installed version of Firefox like normal people would use. So now I've got my 3 articles here. And again, all the same information that I would have if I've been using Refworks. I mean, I've got my article title and author here down in the bottom right corner for this article. I've got the date and other information. I'll try to keep scrolling down here. Often, too, with these articles, you'll actually get, again, another screen capture of those articles. And I'm trying to see if those have come up here, too. There we go. If I want to create a list of, or create a bibliography, I should say, of these sources, I can select whichever ones, either all 3 or just 2. Right-click on those citations in Zotero. Then go down here to create a bibliography from selected items. And I should get a pop-up here in just a moment. Sorry about that. This thumb drive is, I think, working hard. Here we go. And when we get that bibliography window to come up here, you'll see that you'll have the option to dump these into, again, a variety of formats, including APA, MLA, Chicago. Turabian is not listed here, but Chicago and Turabian are very closely related. In fact, I'm not sure that I could tell you exactly what the fine differences are. There are different flavors of Chicago, some which I know the School of Divinity uses. I think they use I want to say they use the endnote or a footnote format, but is that right? Okay, I'm getting a nodding of the head. Footnote format for Chicago or Turabian within the Divinity School. But also some others, again, MLA, APA, and a couple of others. For those people who are in the law school and use Blue Book Law Review, at the Zotero website, zotero.org, you can also download additional citation styles, including Blue Book, and many more than you would see on the screen here. So that option is available to you. I'll just choose, again, APA, copy to clipboard, say OK. And I'll open up, actually, I'll pull up Word here, go to kind of the end of my document here, and I'll just paste that in here. And very quickly, I've got a list of those 3 citations I had pulled out of the EBSCO databases into Zotero and then converted to APA format here. And looks like they're doing pretty well. That first article, I think the capitalization may be a little bit off. I see first comes hydrogen cars, each word capitalized, and I think the capitalization there needs to be changed, and maybe that last one too. So again, just like Refworks, you've got to check. Don't take it for granted that it's going to be perfect the way that it comes in, but do double check what comes out, whether you're using Refworks or Zotero. That's a quick overview of Zotero. I'll just close on Zotero by mentioning a couple things. Zotero is portable. I mentioned at the beginning of this segment here that you can use Zotero on portable Firefox running on a USB thumb drive. That's just what I've been doing here during our class this evening. If you want to check that out, if you want to add Firefox to your thumb drive or several other applications, you can go to this website, portableapps.com, and you'll find a whole host of free software tools you can install on your thumb drive and take with you anywhere you go, including a Firefox browser and email clients and things like that. Zotero will run on portable Firefox. There's also a Zotero beta version called 1.5 beta that will allow you to save and sync your citations across multiple computers. And that's available at the Zotero website. So again, that's a pretty quick overview of an alternative to Refworks that I just wanted to mention. Zotero is getting increasing use among a lot of academic institutions. They've got documentation at their website as well, including Flash tutorials, just like Refworks. If you go to zotero.org/documentation, you can find those tutorials online. And with that, we've reached the end of our class here. We're just a few minutes past 8 o'clock, and we'll wrap up at this point. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on either Refworks or Zotero. I'll open it up for group questions here, and then I'll hang around for a little bit if there are individual questions on anything that you'd like to discuss. Thank you again. Thank you to our distance folks. I appreciate your watching our class tonight, and please let us know at the reference desk. Feel free to contact us, reference@regent.edu, or call us toll-free at 888-249-1822 if you have any questions. Thank you, and God bless.